Well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. For me, it is 5 a.m. Here in Brisbane, Australia, and enjoying the early start and the Coronageddon lockdown. Although we're not quite locked down here just yet, but it looks like we're heading that way. So thanks for joining me. Some pretty crazy times at the moment. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. Once I finish up here with you guys, I got to jump on a flight down to Sydney to try and shut up one of my warehouses before Sydney gets put into lockdown pretty much on Tuesday. So it's pretty crazy stuff at the moment. But anyway, good time to learn some Breeze things, I think. So we'll do that today. So there's a bit of a delay on this live video, so I think if, in terms of asking questions, there's probably like a 1 to 2 minute delay, so it may be better to hold off on questions, or I'll try and answer them towards the end. Otherwise, we might get out of sync a little bit. But I'll try and I've got my phone here, so I'll try and keep an eye on questions as they come through, in case there's anything important, like me, I don't know, accidentally turning the audio off and you can't hear me, or something stupid like that. Anyway, Breeze for iPad. So if you haven't used the iPad app yet, but you have used other Breeze products, particularly DSLR Remote Pro, then it will feel somewhat familiar. It's quite breezy in the way it works. So if you've, in terms of an iPad app, if you've been using, say, Snappic or Curator or Salsa or one of the other sort of, well-known iPad apps, the Breeze app probably will feel a little bit jarring comparatively, but it's sort of fundamentally a different app to the other ones. I think certainly, the big players, Snappic, etc., have done a great job at making an easy-to-use web-based app for iPad. Breeze has sort of taken a different approach, I suppose. So the first thing that's probably the biggest difference between the Breeze iPad app and most of the others is that in order to set the events up, they actually use a Windows app that you need to have running. So you actually set your events up on a Windows PC, and then you sync them across to the iPad, usually using Dropbox, but you can also run it via your own web servers and things like that. So it is a little bit different, and you need to sort of get your head around that. But to me, the biggest benefit of the Breeze iPad app over the other ones is that it's fundamentally different. It's a lot more flexible. It's, in terms of the interface design, you can design just about anything you want, but it's the way that Breeze sort of can manipulate data as well, and work with survey data, and manipulate the output based on how users interact with the photo booth. Really what I find with a lot of the other apps, and I'm certainly not criticizing them or saying they're not good, but they're all sort of basically the same sort of thing. They're sort of more, I suppose, capture apps, I suppose, where you can capture a GIF, you can capture a photo, and they all sort of work the same way. But Breeze allows you, once you get stuck into it and once you sort of understand the power and flexibility of it, you can do some really powerful things. But today, this is sort of just a beginner's look. So what we want to do is get you up and running with it in a basic way. So what we're going to look at is setting up the iPad so we can sync events across using Dropbox. Then we'll set up a basic event. We'll tweak the GIF overlay, create a print layout, and we'll do printing through Breeze Hub, and we'll send an email. And we'll make a couple of basic tweaks to the interface as well. So that's what we're going to do, and I reckon we should get through that in about an hour or so. So we'll see how we go. So the first thing you want to do when getting started with Breeze is obviously you want to make sure you've got the app installed on your iPad. You can obviously grab that from the App Store. The app will run in a trial mode where it's fully featured. It lets you take 10 photos per day. After the 10th photo or the 10th session, it'll watermark the images, but otherwise there's no restriction to the trial. So if you can have a license just for setting up and testing events, but you don't need to pay for it, which is sort of handy. So, like I said, there's a few ways to get events onto the iPad, but probably the easiest way to get going with is just to use Dropbox, since I think most people are all familiar with that. So you do need to have Dropbox installed on your iPad as well, and it needs to be signed into the account that you wanna link it to. So I'll assume that we've got that done. If we jump back into the Breeze iPad app and come up to settings, about the fourth line down here, there's a button there that says sign into Dropbox. So we hit that, and basically that pops open Dropbox, and then it just asks you to authorize the app. So once you do that, what will happen is Breeze will then create the Dropbox will create the Breeze Booth for iPad folder in your Dropbox account. So you do sort of need to do this step first. So while we're in here, we just want to make sure in the settings that we've also enabled the option sync via Dropbox, which you can see is enabled already. And the other thing we want to make sure, at least initially, is that we've got the option copy output to Dropbox enabled as well. So that means any images that are saved will save back into your Dropbox folder. You can use iCloud to do all this instead of Dropbox, and in theory iCloud's easier, except stop Siri. In theory iCloud is simpler, except I just don't think iCloud's as good as Dropbox in a lot of ways. So I think Dropbox is the best way to do it. There's a whole bunch of other options in here, some of which we'll look at a bit later today. Some we'll look at maybe in tomorrow's class, and some we can talk about advanced class another time. So for now we've basically got this set. We'll just hit save on the settings. So I'm going to jump over to the PC. So I've got the Breeze Booth editor, Breeze Booth event editor installed on the PC, and this is what it looks like. Again, if you used Breeze software, this will sort of feel a little bit familiar in terms of its let's say simplicity of design. But this is where we set up events and tweak them and so forth. So to get going, we need to do a couple things first. So because we've never created an event here before, we need to sort of set up the initial folder, the initial event file. So if we say File, New, if we come over to Dropbox and into Apps, we should now have a Breeze Booth for iPad folder. Now this folder was created when I linked the iPad app to Dropbox just a minute ago. Okay, so in here we want to create a folder called Events, like that. And we want to open that folder, and then we want to create a new file called Events. Okay, so that's basically just created an events file for us, so we can now add new events into it. So we're going to hit the Create Event button, and we're going to give the event a name. So I normally date things, so it's year 20, March, what does it say? It's the 23rd here. So Steve party, a party for Steve. Oops. I have one of these MacBook Pros with the sticky keys, which drives me absolutely insane. So if you see typos, it's because of my sticky keys. Okay, so we've got the name of the event, description for the event, which is sort of optional, but just can be helpful if you get confused as to what's what. So because Breeze is works similar to the way DSLR Remote Pro does, whereby you have to design each screen for the software, we need to tell it what iPad we're designing for. So in this demo here today, I'm using the iPad Pro 11-inch, but if you're using the 12.9-inch, you would set it to that. If you're using your iPhone, and yes, you can Breeze runs on the iPhone, which is kind of neat and allows for some potentially cool applications. You'd set it to that, and that's just because the screen ratio and resolutions are slightly different. If you pick the wrong one, it'll just sort of like crop the screen. So it doesn't look completely terrible, but better to pick a ratio that works for you. In Breeze, you also need to design your screens for portrait or landscape. So I guess Breeze doesn't assume, well, if you look at just, again, not to pick on SnapPick, but I'll just use SnapPick as an example. When you rotate the iPad, it sort of automatically shuffles the screen around and sort of comes up with a landscape layout for you. In Breeze, you actually have to design a landscape orientation. Now, on the surface, that seems like a lot of extra work, and it is, but it means that you can design an interface that is a lot more tailored for that orientation. I find sometimes, not just with photo booth apps, to be honest, but with a lot of other apps, when you rotate into the landscape, when they sort of just try and automatically reposition things, sometimes you end up with a layout that doesn't quite work. So this way, you can really tweak things to your liking, if you're going to do it landscape versus portrait. But for today, we're just going to look at portrait. So we'll hit next. Excuse me. Then basically it's just setting up some basic event options. So in this one here, we're going to, well, Breeze ships with a basic theme called Chameleon. You can choose whether you want to do photos or boomerang or both. Or one will set it for that. You set your screen aspect ratio for the camera, whether you want to output MP4 and GIF. We might just output MP4. You can set the background color of the screens that we're going to design, number of photos we're going to take. If you're doing printing, the maximum number of prints that you would allow to be printed. And then to the options, do you want some filter options for color black and white, mirror options we won't turn on. Do you want to preview each photo after it's taken? And if you do you want the option to accept reject? So I don't normally have that on, but I'll keep it on for this demo. We also want to make a slideshow GIF of the photo session, so we'll keep that on. We'll keep the display print confirmation screen on. This is the screen that allows you to decide if you want to print 1 copy, 2 copy, 3 copies of the print, etc. Do we want to share the MP4? Yes, we do. We want to do sharing by email. I'm not going to do text because Twilio doesn't support MMS here in Australia, so I can't really demo it properly from here. New to this version is sharing via AirDrop. I'm not going to enable it because I haven't had a look at it yet, so I don't want to show you something that may or may not work as expected because I don't know how it works. So we're going to run with that. So basically, this is just giving us a basic set of event options. So once we do that, we just hit finish, and it's created it for us. And we basically now have an event here. So we're going to jump back over to the, well, actually before we do that, what we want to do is just make sure that Dropbox has synced all those files, which it has. So now we can jump back over to the iPad app. And so up the top menu here, we have an item that says events. And if we tap on that, basically what we do now is just hit the button down the bottom right hand corner that says update all events that, hang on, let me see what's going on here. Is it? I don't think so. Cool. Cool. Let me, you know what, I'm going to chuck you guys on hold for 1 sec while I figure this out. Back in a minute. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. I think we should be good to go. Right, as I was saying, and then you jump into the iPad, and we come up to events, and then we hit update all events, and basically it will start pulling down the files. So I'll give that a sec. So the thing that I like about Breeze is that when you are syncing an event like this, you actually can see what files are being downloaded. Now, I know for some people look at this and go, oh, it's so ugly, and you know, I just want like a pretty loading, spinning picture. Now, when you get into the more advanced side of Breeze, you actually can. You can put in your own loading animations and graphics for when you're syncing an event. But I sort of like the idea of being able to see also what's downloading, because if you're at an event and say you've got like slow or bad internet, then you know, you can sort of see actually in a bit more detail what's going on and why it's taking so long, or why the event sync might be failing. But once we've got that, we'll just hit back. So now we can see on the iPad itself we have that event Steve Party is listed there. If I tap on that, at any time I can hit the run button to start the event, or we can hit the update button to resync it if we've made a change on the event editor end. So we're going to run it and have a quick look at it. Now, to be fair, out of the box, as a lot of Breeze products are, they tend to look a little bit rudimentary. And the way I sort of look at things is that when you first set up an event in Breeze, you're really doing it just to sort of create a bit of a template, or a bit of a base of something to work from. I think most people would be well advised to take what you get out of the box and sort of tweak it to your liking. But it's a good starting point. So what we've got here is the option for a boomerang GIF and a 3-photo GIF. So I'm just going to do a boomerang GIF. Pretty standard stuff. Okay. And I'm going to do a 3-photo session as well. Because I've got the option there to accept it after each session or retake. We can do that. Okay. That's what the print layout is currently. Not amazing, but we'll get back to that, and the option to print. And at the end, it's created the 3-photo GIF with the option to email it. But we'll need to come back in and tweak some settings to get email going. And we're going to want to tweak that GIF as well, because it's really slow and doesn't have any artwork on it. Okay. So up here you can't quite see it, but there is a little effects button which allows you to also, because we enabled filters in the setup of the event, so you can flip between color, etc, etc. Now obviously it's probably not the greatest spot for it up there, but of course the good thing about Breeze is that we can tweak the design of that screen at some point and move where that button is. Tap in the top left-hand corner to exit back out if we need to get back to these settings. So what we want to do now really is just start tweaking a few things so we can get the GIF looking a bit better and the print layout looking better, and start printing as well. So we're going to jump back into the Windows side of things, and we just want to, let's hide that. Okay, go back into the event here. So to start editing this event, basically we just double click on it. And for now we can just click on the Edit Event Settings button here. And so this takes us into our screen of settings where we can start tweaking things to our liking. Just first, I'll quickly jump into the touchscreen section. So when we come into here, you'll see that basically Breeze has created, when we ran that setup wizard, all the screens for us, and created all the touchscreen hotspots for the keyboard, etc. And if you have come from DSLR Remote Pro, you'll be very pleased to know that in the iPad version, you can graphically create the keyboards, the touchscreen actions for the keyboards in the event editor, rather than having to do it all with the XML file, which is tedious and makes you want to kill yourself by the time you're finished. So we'll just cancel back out of there. What I also wanted to have a quick look at related to that is if we click on the open button next to the screen folder here, this will open up the folder where all the screens are. So you can see what files are being used to generate the interface that we are using so far. Okay, so let's jump into the Photos tab because we want to edit the print layout. So basically we've got some options in here. Currently we're set to take 3 photos. In Breeze you can set the default number of prints, so we've set to 1, which means it will be, which means every time we run a session it's automatically going to print 1 print. If you want to print duplicates, you'd set that to 2. And you can obviously set a maximum number of prints as well. We won't go into it today, but Breeze for iPad also supports the AI background removal tool, so you can turn that on, and it's pretty cool. I think if you set it to preview mode, it's free to use it, but that's just low quality output. A few other settings in here that we won't really dive into. What we want to look at mostly today is the print layout. So the print layout really is, again, fairly similar to what you'd expect in DSLR Remote Pro. In today's example, I want to do more like a 3-photo strip. So we're going to set this to 1240 by 1844. So we put in the ratio of the print layout, update page size, and what I'm going to do is also import an overlay file. And I have some artwork here, so I'm going to bring in a photo strip like this. Okay, and then just like you would in DSLR Remote Pro, we need to just tweak the layout. And my third photo's around there somewhere. I'll add a new one. So you can right-click anywhere on the screen to bring up the sub-menu to add photos, add a caption, or add a QR code. If you click on a photo and right-click on it, then you also have the option to set the position of the photo by pixel, which sometimes is really handy if you need a bit more accuracy of where it is. And I should also point out that it does support rotated images as well, if you like an angle. So I'll quickly finish this one off. Okay. I'll just move that one down a bit. Okay, so now we have a basic photo strip done, which I think looks not too bad. So we'll hit save on that one. Okay. So what we might do is just OK that, and we'll save that. Okay, and just make sure that is going to sync through to Dropbox. Update. Okay, cool. So now if we jump back over to the iPad, basically what we should be able to do is hit the update button here. Okay, and we can actually see that it's downloaded that overlay file that I just added in here. So if we now run this event, a 3-photo session, Okay, so we should now see our print layout as such, which looks a little bit better. Now you can, I think there is an option there to display this just as a single strip but have it print as a double. But to be honest, I don't do a lot of printing from iPad, so might have to have a look into that another time. Michelle, can you export a print layout as you can in DSLR Pro? Not quite as easily. You have to do a bit of cutting and pasting with the print layout. It's in the XML settings file, but it is quite easy to duplicate an event in the iPad. So maybe what you would do is set up one sort of template your events basically. So if I just quickly jump over to the event editor again, you can. Let me just think. Yeah, so if you right click on this event and clone it, then you'd create a duplicate of that event, and then you just sort of swap out the artwork. So that might be one way to handle it. But it doesn't have an export function like DSLR does currently. Hopefully that will change. Okay, so we've done the print layout, and if we just, I don't know why my Mac doc's getting in the way down here. If we just jump back into this Dropbox folder for a sec. Okay, one thing I haven't done, let's just jump back into the iPad for a sec. I think when I was trying to fix my internet issues before. If we come back into the settings of the iPad, if you untoggle this Show Advanced Settings box, it'll hide or show more settings. So we'll put that back on. I didn't enable copy output to Dropbox, so obviously we want to do that if you want to save a copy of the images into your Dropbox folder, so I hadn't done that. Incidentally, if you open the Files app on your iPad, all the images save into here, into a folder called Photos. They will also sync to Dropbox if you enable it, which I just did. Okay, so now we have the print layout. Obviously, we want to print the photo. So I've got a printer set up here. So how do we get the photos to actually print? Well, we need to just jump back over to Windows for a second. There's two ways you can currently do this. So you can use an AirPrint compatible printer or an Aircon for one of those print server products, and Breeze will support printing over AirPrint. Sorry, I should have just shown you that real quick. Back in settings on the iPad app, if you enable the print using AirPrint option there and then choose a printer, I just have the Office printer upstairs, which would be no good, but you could theoretically print to that. The better way to do it currently is to use Breeze Hub on a PC. Now you could run Breeze Hub off the slowest, crappiest PC you can find. We use an Intel Compute Stick, which is they're about, I don't know, they're around about $100 or something like that. They're not very, they're like just a bit bigger than a USB stick, and you don't need a monitor. You just can set it to auto start and run Breeze Hub as a startup item, and it just sort of connects and runs. So Breeze Hub is a companion app. If I've got it open, no, this one here, Breeze Hub. So this comes with the event editor when you install it the first time. So basically, all right. What we need to do, sorry, I keep on forgetting little tiny steps, jump back into the iPad again. We need to make sure that the iPad is set to connect to Breeze Hub. So in the settings, if we scroll down, there's an option here that says connect to Breeze Hub. So once we do that, so long as the iPad is on the same Wi-Fi network as the PC running Breeze Hub, then it will just automatically connect 99 times out of 100. So if we come into Breeze Hub, you'll see now there's a list here of connected devices. So I've got Steve's iPad Pro, it's got the iPad, the IP address, what screen it's currently on, battery life, and the available storage on the iPad. So this is now connected to my iPad. So in order to print, what we want to do is come into File and just do Printer Setup. And we want to set the default printer. So that's set to the DSRX1, so that all looks about right. I'll just make sure we've got the cut enabled. Okay, we'll OK that. Now, we won't go into this today, but underneath here is the option for printer 2 and printer 3. And these options here are if you need to print different print layouts. So if you want to offer a 6x4 single image and a photo strip that cuts, basically you can set up one printer with the cut enabled like I did here, and another printer without the cut enabled in here. Then in the event editor, you basically tell it, you use a little bit of black magic trickery, and it will know which printer to use based on the file filter here. But that's probably not for today, but good to know that you can do it. So we've got that printer set up. If we just jump into preferences, two things we want to make sure we've got ticked is enable sync services. So this just ensures that all the images on the iPad sync across to Breeze Hub. I think that's enabled by default. And then we want to enable print photos down the bottom. Now there's also a couple little options here, resize prints to fill page. So basically, if you're outputting, say, a file that's 1800 by 1200, but your printer uses 1240 by 1844, resize prints to fill page will basically scale the image up to fill the whole page. Auto bleed basically does it uses some pixels from the edge of the 18 by 1200 image to sort of fill out the image to 1240 by 1844. Or you could just make sure your print layout's the correct size and you don't have to worry about any of that. So I'm going to set it like that. So let's have a look. Let's see if we can jump into this one here. All right. So if we now start the iPad app, okay, and if you can see it there, it's a little bit screen on small, but here it actually shows you what screen you're on. So it's kind of neat that you can sort of monitor the actual usage of the photo booth where it's actually at. So we're going to take 3 photos. Keep that one. Okay, so we've got our 3 photos. We'll set it for 2 prints and we'll see what happens in a sec. Okay, so what you can see here, you'll hear that the print is printing. Breeze Hub has downloaded the images to my computer, so I now have a copy saved on the computer. So in addition to handling printing, let's jump back into this one here. Yeah. So in addition to handling the printing, it's also handling downloading the images as well. So you really have some flexibility. So like I said, you can sync the images back to base through either iCloud, Dropbox, or if you're using Breeze Hub, it'll sync onto your local PC, and then obviously you could save that into Dropbox and it would sync back that way. So let me just show you. I've got proof. So I printed 2 copies of the strips, which means we had 4 altogether. Okay. Well, that. And it even tells you in Breeze Hub that we printed 2 copies if you have a look down here. So this is kind of nice thing about Breeze, that it really gives you all the detail information about exactly what's going on, which I kind of like. So we've now got printing sort of figured out. So let's jump back in and sort of fix up the GIF, because the GIF doesn't look great currently. So we'll come back in, edit here, and we'll come into slideshow GIF. So there's a few options under slideshow GIF. Basically, you have the option if you want to actually output the GIF file itself, or the MP4, or both. I don't really see a whole lot of use for the GIF file, so I don't generally enable that. Create the MP4, which folder you want to save it into. Minimum duration, 3 seconds. I think that's about the shortest amount of time that Instagram will accept for a video file. Whether you want to boomerang it back and forward. overlays per photo we'll come back to, and the playback interval. So at the moment it's playing 1 photo every second, which is way too slow for my liking. So I'm going to change it to 0.3 of a second, which means there'll be you know, about every second we'll get through all images. One nice thing about Breeze also is that you can sharpen images. I think iPads don't tend to take the greatest quality images, and I think just a little bit of sharpness, sharpening them up helps a bit. But if you go too crazy, then they'll start looking bad again. But it's good just to be able to tweak the sharpness a bit. Okay, so if we jump into in here, we've got basically settings for the GIF. So, excuse me. So this is a little low res for me, so I'm going to bring it up to 1600 by 1600. And so basically, the width is talking about the width of the output size of the GIF itself. The bounding box width is how big the image or the photos we're taking are going to be within that box. So in this case, I want them to be really the same, so it'll fill it up like that. But if I only wanted to position them, say 800 by 800, like that, then we can use the left and top function to sort of push them over, something like that. So if I wanted to have a big white chunky border around my GIF, we could center it like that. But in this case, I want to keep it all just full. We'll refresh like that. Okay. So now we have a bigger GIF. Now we want to add some artwork to that. Now, for whatever reason, you can't just import the overlay from here, so you have to sort of do it the good old-fashioned Breeze way by copying your file, your GIF overlay file, into this folder here. So I'm going to grab some artwork that I prepared earlier. Alright, I'm just going to grab this file here. Now, the iPad app uses a slightly different naming convention to DSLR Remote Pro. If you can remember, in DSLR Remote Pro, the GIF overlay is what you'd normally use for your 3-photo GIF, and the overlay and the file for a boomerang or a burst GIF would normally be video stills overlay. So that's now been changed. A video GIF is now just uses GIF overlay, and the 3-photo slideshow type GIF is now slideshow underscore GIF underscore overlay, which makes more sense, but it just can get a little bit confusing if you're using both programs or used to doing it the other way. Okay, so we've got that in there. We'll OK that, and we will. Now, one little thing in the iPad app that it sort of gets me every time, there's this thing that says regenerate manifests, and you'll see it in a couple of places. You see it up here as well. Basically, the regenerating manifest is sort of just telling the iPad what files to expect when it's looking to download updates. To be honest, sometimes I don't. Sometimes the event editor recreates the manifest for you and you don't have to worry about it. Sometimes it doesn't and you need to do it manually. So whenever I've made changes, just as a good habit, I right click on the event and just say regenerate manifests, and it does its thing, and then you should be okay. Maybe it's one of those things where you don't ask why you need to do it and you just do it, and then one day I'll ask Chris properly about what it does and I'll tell you. Anyway, so we'll jump back into the iPad and we'll just edit out, jump out of that event, and we'll update this to make sure we've got our GIF overlay. So we'll run that. We'll do a 3-photo session. Two. Okay, because we've still got printing enabled, it's going to show me that. I won't bother printing. Oh, I should have done that. By skipping that, it didn't take me through to the next bit. That's okay. What we'll do... Oops, sorry. Let me just bring you over to the PC. It may not have synced through yet. I was just waiting for, in fact, we can just have a look, hopefully, on the iPad here, if that did in fact, where's that one, 2020, 23, 52, okay. My bad. We're going to run that again because I think basically I didn't save the session. I cancelled the session at the end. This is what happens when you... I don't normally do printing and I don't normally use that print confirmation screen, so sometimes I get myself in a twist. Alright, we'll print this one. There we go. So now that I've okayed that session, it's taken me through the sharing screen, which gives me the GIF overlay. So now we've applied that. Okay. So we've done that one. And real quick, we're just going to jump back into the event editor. And we want to quickly fix up the burst GIF as well because it's not going to have an overlay. So burst GIF is very similar. It's the same sort of settings. Excuse me. Basically, we're capturing 28 frames here. I want to make it bigger. Go up to 1600. Okay, we'll refresh that. That looks a bit better. Okay, that one. And we just need to jump in, grab the artwork for it. Oops. We'll grab this one here. Okay, so we've copied that one in. Okay, that's synced through to the iPad. Like I said, as a good habit thing, we just save the settings there. Regenerate manifest. Okay, so we should be good to jump back into the iPad. If we just hop out of here for 1 sec and go events, update that event. Okay, it's downloaded my GIF overlay, which is great, and we'll run that. I'll just do a boomerang burst GIF. Okay, and we've got that there. So we're getting somewhere. We've fixed up our print layout, which now prints. We've got a slideshow GIF with an overlay, and we have a boomerang burst GIF with an overlay as well. So next step is email. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to look at first for email, and the first thing is getting our SMTP server details set up, and they need to be added onto the iPad. Well, I should say, as usual in Breeze, there's about 100 ways you can do the same thing. So first of all, you can just use the built-in iOS mail app to email if you want, which just means when you email at the end of the session, it sort of pops open the little share window from the default mail app, and you can do it that way. I don't think that's a very good way to do it for lots of reasons. One, because it's sort of, you've got this third-party app sort of coming to the front, which doesn't look great. But there's sort of no privacy around emails, so when you start typing the email address, it'll try and auto-fill it to previous ones. The second way you can email is direct through the Breeze app, where you design your own email keyboard or use the one that the setup wizard has generated for you, and then you enter your SMTP email details in the iPad app to send it, or you can send via Breeze Hub. In this case, I recommend sending direct from the iPad using the SMTP details. So that's what we're going to do today, and I'll show you how to do that. So on the iPad, if you come back into settings, towards the bottom, there's a section here that says send emails via SMTP. So if we enable that, then we can enter in our SMTP settings. I'm going to just jump into Dropbox, where I saved a copy of my SMTP details. All right. Now, I don't mind if you see these, because after this demo I will change these so you can't steal them, but also we use Postmark app, and requires a few extra steps of authentication, so it's probably not much good to you anyway. So I'm just going to paste in my username and password. I'll just quickly grab the SMTP server. I think it's port 587. Okay, so we've set up the SMTP on the iPad app. So that's step one done. Now we need to jump back onto the event editor, and if we edit this event again and come across to the Share tab, we have our email options here. So the first thing we want to do is set a from email address. So I want to send this from my main address, hello@photobooth.co. Then basically it's options of, do we want to share the photos, do we want to share the slideshow GIF, do we want to share the MP4 version or the GIF version, and do we want to share the burst GIF. Now again, because it's Breeze and you can do things to finite control. Did I forget the password? Nope, I didn't. It should be in there. But we'll find out if it works or not, Peter. You can set up different email templates for everything that you're sending. So if you're sending just the photos, you can have one email template. If you're sending a burst GIF, you can set a different email template. And if you're sending the slideshow GIF, you can set yet another email template. So on the surface, yes, that is a little bit more work to set up, but it also means you can create emails that are a lot more tailored and custom to the content that you're sending. Now, the iPad app also supports the ability to send all the images from the session along with the GIF and the print layout attached as well. And you can do that without having to use Breeze Hub. DSLR Remote Pro, you need to use Breeze Hub to do that. So that is a good thing. So basically, we'll just jump in here to slideshow email. So it's very basic, and you can just type in either plain text essentially for your email, your subject, the body of the email, and then probably more importantly at the moment is the attachment options. So we can attach the print layout to the email, and we can set the size that we want it to attach at, sorry. We can attach the individual photos and what size they get attached at. And we can choose to attach the slideshow GIF as well. Now with that, there's a couple of extra options where you can either send just the MP4, or you can embed a JPEG preview of the MP4 into the body of the email, or you can have the preview image and the MP4 attached as well. So you got lots of options there, which is really useful for configuring really great looking emails. But to start with, we're just going to do something that looks pretty plain and boring. Okay. Then we'll just jump into MP4 for email for the burst GIF, and similar options. Obviously, we're not attaching single images, but we get the options for the MP4. So if we want to attach the output and a JPEG preview in the body of the email, you would enable that. Okay. So let's just set that and have a look to see what it looks like. Now, unlike the print layouts, you can save out your email settings to a file and re-import them as well by using the save and load buttons here. Okay, so we'll save that, we'll OK that, and we'll jump back over to the iPad and we'll run a session and try an email and see what happens. So I'll run a boomerang GIF because it's faster. Okay. We'll send that. Okay. Once we've sent that, we can just jump out of here for a sec. If we come back to the main screen, there's a status menu. Basically, that will show you a queue of what's been sent and what hasn't been sent. So we can see that we've done 8 sessions today, 5 photo sessions, 3 GIF sessions, and 1 email, 1 GIF email, no queue, and there's nothing in the queue. So theoretically that means I should get that email. So I'll check my phone. Nothing yet. Yes, there are tokens that you can use for email, Peter. I'm not going to go into too much detail on making pretty looking emails today. I might try and import a template that I've pre-made just so you can see what a better one looks like. Let's have a quick look in here. Actually, we might need to check one more thing. Okay. That should be okay. Sorry, excuse me while I just figure something out. Cool. Well, for some reason the email has not come through to me, but I'm not going to waste time figuring that out. I think I've just forgotten a setting because it's 5 in the morning and I'm tired. So what I'll do, I'll figure out what went wrong there, and I'll post a little update into the Facebook group. Which I'm just going to open back up so I can see what you guys are doing. But what we do, I'll just come back so you can see my beautiful face. One thing we do for email is we use a website called befree.io, and we design all our emails in there. It's a graphical editor and it's really easy to use and produces beautifully designed emails that are all responsive for mobile. And then you can essentially just cut and paste the code straight into the Breeze event editor. I'll drop a link to the Facebook group after this. It's definitely worth checking out, and it means you can design emails basically any way you want, which is good. So aside from my little email glitch, which we'll get back to, that is basically how you set email up. And assuming I didn't put the wrong password in, maybe you're right, Peter, then emails just send like that. So what we've done so far is we've got the print layout done with printing, GIF overlay tweaked for slideshow and burst, and we've set up email that sort of mostly works, but that's my fault. What I want to have a quick look at before we wrap up is just making a few basic interface tweaks, because this is really where you start getting into the more interesting side of Breeze. So you'd notice that I'm sort of jumping in and out of the iPad app a little bit to like update the event and check the status queue and things like that. So in an ideal world, you don't want to be sort of having to constantly flick back out to here. to do things. So the great thing about Breeze is that you can start adding in some sort of your own interface elements to your personal preference. So what we're going to do is just go back into the event editor, and we want to look at the ready screen. So we're in the touchscreen editor here, and we can see down the bottom we've got our start buttons and our touch actions around them. So these are great. I think we should give ourselves a bit bigger touch action around these. But what I want to do, and we can see up the top here also we have a hidden exit button. But I want to add in I don't want to have to exit out back to the main screen to resync the event every time I make a change. So I want to add an action here, and I right click and add a new touchscreen action, and I want to find the one, something about, okay, sync event from standby ready screen. So I put this in here, and I'm going to put it up in the top right hand corner. Alright, and also I want to add an action for checking the file transfer queue, or the status queue, which is in here somewhere. Status, where are you? Display status screen, there we go. Okay, and I'm just going to chuck this up sort of in the middle up the top. So these are going to be hidden buttons because I'm not designing the graphical element that sits behind it. Okay, I'll just save that. We'll okay that. We'll okay that. We'll make sure Dropbox is up to date. It should be in a sec. Okay, so we'll jump back into the iPad. So we just need to exit back out this time and hit events, then update the event. Okay. And now if we run it, so now if I make a change in the software, I can just hit the top right hand corner, and it will do the update from there rather than having to exit back out to the software. Or if I want to see what my status queue is, I can just hit that button up the top and bring up the status queue here so I can see if there's any files stuck that haven't uploaded yet. Now, something we haven't looked at is camera settings, so we'll quickly add that in as well. Oops, get there that way. So I'll jump back into touch actions, and we want to add in a camera button. So what we'll do here is add one, adjust camera settings. Okay, and so we'll just chuck this down in the bottom right hand corner just for the second, and we'll save that. Okay, that one, and just make sure Dropbox to sync that one. We'll update that. And so now if I tap, oops, you didn't see that because I didn't cut over to this one. Okay, now if I tap in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, it'll bring up the camera settings where I can adjust contrast, saturation, vibrance, exposure, ISO, white balance, tint, and digital zoom. So you get the full camera controls there. Now obviously if you didn't want that to be a hidden button, you just create the graphical element on that ready screen to put a camera settings button in there. One thing I like about Breeze and the way they've done the camera settings is that what we find with our unattended iPad stuff, we don't want to give people access to the full camera settings because most people have no idea what ISO are and tint and things like that, and they start playing with all those sliders and they just basically end up creating a terrible looking picture. So you can simplify the camera settings menu. So if I just delete this for a sec, we can add in a new action. And there should be one here, increase exposure, and we're going to put that just for the minute over here, and then we're going to create another one, decrease exposure. Okay. Oh, I should have been cut to Windows. Sorry. My apologies. But anyway, I just added in a increase exposure button here and a decrease exposure button over on the left. Back to the iPad. I'll just save that. Okay. So we'll just sync that change. Oops, didn't sync. Oops. Yeah. I will go ahead and actually save that so it does sync. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. Okay, resync. Should work this time. Okay, so now I have a hidden button on the right that if I tap on it, it'll increase the exposure, which is going to look terrible if I do it too much. And then if I tap on the left, I can bring it back down. So what we've done at our implementation of the app, and I'm going to show it to you in a sec, is created a simpler camera setting screen for people where it's really just a case of brighter or darker. We don't want to give people access to the full camera settings. We just really want them to say, if the photo's a bit too dark, you can just tap over here. If it's a bit too bright, tap over there. And that's sort of where, in Breeze, you start getting to a lot of the power and flexibility of what you can do, because you can start building these interfaces that are really quite specific to your needs. So, and on that note, what I want to finish up with is I want to show you the interface that we have built for our iPad drop-off business, because what you'll see from what I've just shown you for a fairly basic setup to what you can get it to is really quite dramatically different. So just bear with me one sec. I'm just going to grab some settings off Dropbox so I can show you. Okay, let me just go to iPad. So this is jumping into some more advanced stuff that I'm not going to really go into, but it's just sort of good to know about. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to how we sync. So we sync off our own server here in the office, which actually I just need to quickly start. Okay, all right. So I'm going to put in my own server address, and then oops, that's probably because that has changed. There's not currently a way to trigger an external flash with the iPad booth, but you can integrate to, you can control LED lighting. Just bear with me one sec, guys, while I set this up. It's worth the wait, so just chat amongst yourselves or ask me questions, and I will try and answer while I remember what I'm doing. Can you load an event prior and have it run if there is no internet at the venue? Sure, you can do that. Okay, nearly there. Eight. What is that one? Cool. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I've just downloaded off back onto my server. Okay, so this is what I want to show you, because this is a real, a fairly customized setup of the app, and I think it gives you a much better idea of what you can potentially do with it. So basically, in our iPad, our drop-off, or pick-up iPad rental business, we have designed it so one sort of instruction leads to the next. So we don't really give them like a big video of how you do it or set the booth up, and we don't give them a big booklet or a PDF document. It's they open the case, and the case tells them how to put it together. When they put it together, they know how to turn it on. Once they turn it on, the screens are designed to step them through other parts of the setup process. So when they first open the Breeze app, the first thing it asks them to do is to ensure that they've installed the battery in our photo booth and turn the lights on. So once they've done that, they can press OK. And this is all in the Breeze app, right? We use an event code system that you can do in Breeze, and this is such a brilliant way of doing things, and it requires a little bit more time to set up, but once you get it, it's just absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to put in an event code, and that's going to sync some files down. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Love a live demo that goes perfectly well. It's really good. Yeah, that's probably right. I'm just going to trick it up a bit, because I've moved, basically what's happened, I've just moved some server stuff around for this demo, and that's just broken a couple things. Oops. No, that's right. It wouldn't be Breeze. And this is actually it's a fair comment about some of the Breeze stuff, that it can be sometimes temperamental. If you touch one thing, it can break a bunch of things. But you know, the way I see it is, you know, no pain, no gain, something like that. Sounds good. Okay, so basically once I'd enter that event code, it will take me to this. So we have our clients basically do a check on the condition of the equipment. So we want to make sure, it's a bit like when you hire a rental car, when you have to walk around and you tick off the paper. We sort of want to do the same thing, because basically we'll charge people if they break the gear, but we need to have some sort of proof that works. So the next screen they get to is a screen that says, but first we just need to do a quick condition check, and they hit the Let's Go button. And this is a survey essentially that we've set up in Breeze where we show the photo booth, and they basically have to say what condition each section's in. So the head is all good. The top of the tripod we could say is damaged. The bottom is all good. Batteries are missing. The accessories are all good. Okay, and then that's done. So what happens then is basically that that sneakily takes a photo of the person, which is going to print because I had printing turned on, but normally that wouldn't happen at an event, and saves a file with all that information that gets sent back to the office. So we have some sort of just turn that off. Some sort of proof if the equipment has been damaged or not. Okay, so this is our interface. So basically, this is we've got like the standby screen. So Breeze supports MP4 files and movie files for basically every screen in the software, including using HEVC transparency. So you can create full video interfaces with alpha transparency, which is absolutely incredible what you can do with that. So basically what we've got going on here, like I said, because this is unattended, we don't want to hide some of the settings. We want to make some of the camera settings quite visible to people. So up the top we have the Q button, which just brings up the status queue so people know what's got left to sync before they return the booth. If we come up to settings, what we've got here, there's an exit button up the top. A code button, so if we need to reset back to our default code or enter the next event code, we just can type it in there. Resync the event. Shouldn't have pressed that. That's okay. Go away. Come back up here. So we've got resync the event. Now down the bottom, this is what I was talking about before, we've got like a simplified custom camera settings screen. So we just want to give people the option of brighter or darker because we feel like that's all people can cope with. So we even have put down the bottom just some examples of different exposures just so they've got a reference point of what's too dark, what's too bright and what's good. And then there's a refresh button as well. So if they go too crazy brightening it, they can just hit reset and it'll put it back to normal. So then basically we've got props down the bottom for AR props. Okay, so they have basically another cool thing in Breeze is that you can have groups of props. So what they're doing here is they're not selecting one of the 5 props that you can see on the screen. If there's 5 people in the photo, those 5 props will be automatically applied to the 5 people in the image. So they're sort of selecting a group of props. Because what we find, otherwise people spend too much time trying to select individual props. So we're just trying to give them some variety of choice, but in a simpler way. Okay, and then we've got just a simple color or black and white button. I'll do a boomerang GIF. Okay, so that's our share screen. You can also, in Breeze, you can set it up so you can have multiple, enter multiple emails and send them out. Let's see if my email is going to work for me this time. And so you can basically custom design, obviously, every screen, very similar to what you can do in DSLR, except you can do a whole lot more stuff in this, largely because it's got better support for transparency in PNG files, and the fact that you can use video files as well. I'm not sure if you noticed that, but just very up the top of the, so if we can, just under here, the first time the screen loads, basically a little video flashes up saying adjust camera settings. So we've just put a few little cues in for users to know where the settings are, but we don't want that adjust settings button sort of flashing up all the time. So yeah, that's really just a basic look at how to get started to set up a simple event with the iPad app. But what I really wanted to show you with this is that you can then take what really looks a little bit ugly out of the box and turn it into something really quite custom and flexible that suits your specific needs. And if I can, I'll just try before we go. Actually, one other thing you can, and we'll probably talk more about this on the advanced class tomorrow, is that you can white label the app as well. So you'll notice when I loaded in my event, it's now reskinned the Breeze software to make it my own software. So that's really cool, and hopefully I can show you one more example of that without having tech issues. 1.2.1.2.3.6 dash slash cool. Let me just quickly check. Oops, that's right. Okay, so I'm just loading in another event, and now we have a KFC branded app. So this is one we did. KFC are doing weddings in Australia, so you can have KFC cater your wedding, and as part of that you get a photo booth. So we provided the photo booth for them, and we basically created them what they think is a custom photo booth app. So as soon as they put in their event, it's reskin the software to KFC, and we do something. And we've taken it the whole way through the software. So again, we have the same sort of menu system up the top, but this time we've hidden it because we don't want Joe Public KFC sticky fingers, whatever, licky fingers, touching the screen unnecessarily. But we want the agency that's running it to know, where the menu is. So we've just got these two little discrete dots up the top of the screen, which brings up our menu, and then we use videos with transparency in here to create a more engaging user interface. So I'll give you a quick run through of a boomerang GIF. So these are all video files. The way that the screen sort of dropped down was just done as video. That's a video. That's a video. And that's the final output. Custom keyboard and everything for KFC. So if I'll just quickly, to finish up with, jump into that event on the PC, and at the end of the day, it's just made up of, just like DSLR Pro, it's just made up from a whole bunch of video and JPEG and PNG images. So this is really, for me, the power of this, the fact that we could create, for KFC, what looks like a totally custom app. And that's what they paid for, and you can't do this stuff with, Snappic and programs like that. For as good as they are, for the things that they do, for me and in our business, where we make a lot of our money is doing this sort of thing, creating things for people that just seems really custom to what they want. But you have to sort of start with the basics with Breeze. So you need to build that sort of ugly event using the setup wizard, and then you've got to start playing with it. So for those of you that are coming to this again tomorrow, we'll start looking in a bit more detail how to white label the software. We're going to look at surveys and how to use survey data to manipulate the output of images. I'm going to look at some tokens and things like that, and get you close to being able to build something like the KFC app or our Selfmatic interface. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have any specific questions, just leave them in the Facebook group. This video should become available to download pretty much within the next 20 minutes or so once Facebook processes it. Sorry, Catalina, the icon for the KFC one, I assume you mean when they first launch it from the desktop. It just looks like the Breeze icon, but the Breeze icon is pretty... one here is just the B. So yes, they know that they are running initially the Breeze app, but this is another, the fact that Breeze for iPad is a little bit harder to get started with than, say, Snap Pixel's the Curator, I think is a big plus when you're working with these sorts of companies, because the reality is, if the agency that booked us for this KFC stuff, if they found the Breeze app from the App Store, they basically have zero chance of figuring out how to do it themselves, because most agencies are morons. These guys are no different. They can barely turn the thing on, turn an iPad on, let alone set up a custom app like this. So what we actually did for them was basically pre-charge them to set up a whole bunch of events. So we just give them an event code. All they have to do is start the Breeze app, and then when they do their next event, they come up here and they put in the event code for the next event. It downloads everything for that event with all the correct artwork, and off they go. But I'm not particularly concerned about them knowing that we use Breeze. I'm more concerned about them knowing if we used Snap or Curator, because I think they would figure that out too easily, and it would cut us out of the picture, to be honest. But anyway, so yeah, any more questions, just leave them in here, and I'll jump in and answer them. So thank you very much for your time, and we will chat soon.